Thank you. And we are back with Decarteret College versus Charlemont High. Let's get into it. We had our match previously, Monroe College and Cornell College. Cornell College would have forfeited, so today we will know what the final scores will be. Malik Kelly is our chief judge this afternoon. He is attorney at law Malik Kelly. Yannick Salesman, CEO, business owner of Tourism Booster. Sandra Roden, who is a policy analyst and radio talk show host. If you tune into CVM, you may see Sandra or on Nationwide News. Our motion will be Decarteret College in the proposing position and Charlemont High opposing the motion. Our first speaker is allowed 7 minutes, second speaker 5 minutes, third speaker 3 minutes, followed by the rebuttal, and the rebuttal begins with our opposing team, which is Charlemont High. I will allow the following students from Decarteret College to go ahead and introduce themselves to our audience, and then Charlemont High. Go ahead, Decarteret College, please. We may have lost Decarteret. Please go ahead, Charlemont High.
Good morning. My name is Tatiana Grant and I am the opposition leader.
Good morning. My name is Shepard White and I am the deputy.
Good afternoon. My name is Alex.
Thank you very much. We will now invite our Chief Judge, Malik Kelly, to just brief you on the rules of the competition. Most of you would be familiar with it already, but for the purposes of the competition, we have Decarteret College. All right, so Mr. Kelly, you can go ahead and in Decarteret College, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Edie. Good afternoon, students. Good afternoon, colleagues. We are in for, I'm very sure, an exciting match again this afternoon. We remind you of the rules. The basic things that you must remember are the first and last minutes of your presentations are protected minutes, during which time no points of information will be accepted during those periods, as well as during your rebuttal, no point of information will be accepted at that time either. You are to utilize a break after the speeches from both sides are finished to work collaboratively to complete the rebuttal, and you're not to use any aids at the time you are preparing your rebuttal. We also encourage you to adhere to the time. I know the timekeeper usually in the chat utilizes the clapping emoji to indicate when you have your first minute out of the way, that is your protected minute, and also when you have 1 minute remaining for your presentation. And you'll see the clapping emoji going across on your screen like that. So over to you, Madam Moderator. We are ready once Decarteret introduces themselves. Thank you.
All right, I'm seeing a call coming in for Decarteret. I can't take the call now. We're online, but Decarteret, are they still there?
Hello.
Yes, we are seeing them.
We're experiencing some slight difficulties.
Can you ask your coach to stop ringing? You're right. Your coach is ringing and she's interrupting our connections. Can you just address what is happening?
Yes, we're having some technical difficulties, so we're requesting if we could change our space for the in 5 minutes.
Can you tell me what the technical difficulties are, because I can hear you clearly?
We have internet difficulties, so we're asking if we could just change our space in 5 minutes.
Judges, can you tell me if this is fine? 5 minutes or less, preferably.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Okay, while we wait. A reminder of the motion. This House believes that Jamaica should mandate exclusive local ownership of all commercial branding, merchandising, and marketing rights for international sporting events hosted on the island. We'd like to take a minute to thank our sponsors, Jamaica Hotel and Tourist Association, prizes from Royalton Resorts, Beaches Negril, Moon Palace Jamaica, and a Best Speaker trophy from Pair 1. We are joined by adjudicators Malika Kalia, Sandra Roden, and Yannick Delfman. So we will continue in about 2 minutes while Decarteret College, when they return, they will introduce themselves and we will begin with their first speaker from Decarteret College. Okay, Decarteret College, please go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Introduce. Yeah, introduce.
I am Johnny Hall, the Prime Minister for the government.
I am Makaya Reed, and I am the second speaker for the government.
My name is Icon Brown, and I am the third speaker for the government.
Thank you very much, Decarteret College. Will you be moving from the table during your presentation? Is that it? I'm not seeing.
Yes, miss.
Okay, all right. So let us begin with your first speaker. Please position yourself.
Hold on, before you start.
Madam Speaker and members of this honorable House, good afternoon. I stand as the Prime Minister in full support of the motion. This House of Jamaica should mandate exclusive local ownership of all commercial branding, merchandising, and marketing rights for international sporting events that are hosted on the island. I will delve into the economic sovereignty rights that Jamaica has, implementation of the mandate, and the fact that Jamaica will not be avoided due to the mandate. The Deputy Prime Minister will speak on the benefits to the industries and the level of control that foreign entities currently have. The final member will address concern of whether local companies can manage these commercial rights. Before this House can fairly assess the motion, we must first establish the framework within which it is to be debated. For clarity, mandate means a legal requirement. Mandate means a legal requirement. Exclusive local ownership means that the legal ownership and controlling interest in the commercial branding, merchandising, and marketing rights of an international sporting event must rest solely with Jamaican citizens or majority Jamaican-owned businesses. Commercial branding, merchandising, and marketing rights are the legal rights to own, control, and profit from an event's commercial identity, including its commercial branding, licensed merchandise, and commercial promotion. International sporting events hosted on the island are organized sporting competitions that are held in Jamaica involving participants, teams, governing bodies, sponsors, broadcasters, or spectators from multiple countries. The question before this House is therefore straightforward. When international sporting events generate commercial value on Jamaican soil, Should that value remain under Jamaican ownership, or should it continue to be controlled by foreign entities? The government answers that question without hesitation. It belongs to Jamaica. I now turn to my first contention. Madam Speaker, my first contention is simple. Jamaica should not bear the cost of hosting international sporting events while surrendering ownership of their greatest commercial value. The reality is clear. According to the Jamaica Observer in a post by Shane Hendricks, who uploaded June 26 of 2026, the government has allocated 1.4 billion Jamaican dollars in the 2026-2027 fiscal year to facilitate the hosting of sporting events, with much of that investment directed towards infrastructure. Beyond the stadiums themselves, Jamaica provides security, logistics, and operational support that makes these events possible. When additional costs arise, it is the Jamaican taxpayer who bears the responsibility. Yet when those same events succeed, the greatest commercial rewards do not remain in Jamaica. The branding, the merchandise, the commercial marketing rights, these are not decorative features of an event. There is commercial identity. Every official jersey that is sold, every official sponsor that is displayed, every licensed product that is marketed, they all derive their value from these rights. Despite being generated on Jamaican soil and enabled by Jamaican investment, they remain under foreign control. Madam Speaker, this is equivalent to a landlord who builds and maintains a property only to allow someone else to collect the rent. That's not a rational system of exchange. It is an imbalance that our mandate corrects. If Jamaica builds the platform, Jamaica should share in the value that it creates. In case there are any questions surrounding the implementation of our mandate, we do have a plan. Our mandate does not stop international sport from coming to Jamaica. It sets the condition under which it operates. First, any international body that wishes to host an event in Jamaica must ensure that the commercial branding, merchandising, and marketing rights for the event in Jamaica are legally owned and controlled by a majority Jamaican-owned business. While international organizations may continue to participate contractually, ownership and controlling interest in those rights must remain in Jamaican hands. Second, all commercial activity that is generated on the island must flow through Jamaican registered structures before profits are distributed abroad. This ensures that participation in Jamaica means contribution to Jamaica. This is not unusual. Governments routinely attach conditions to the use of domestic infrastructure and markets. We are doing exactly that. None of this is revolutionary. We are not closing Jamaica's doors to international sport. We are simply ensuring that those who enter contribute fairly to the country that makes their success possible. The opposition may argue that our plan is well-intended but impractical, that these restrictions make Jamaica a less attractive host. That claim is false. When New Zealand prepared to host the Rugby World Cup in 2011, its parliament passed what is known as the Major Events Management Act, a statutory system designed to regulate how commercial rights and event structures operated within its jurisdiction. There was no collapse in participation for commercial activity. An evaluation report by the KPMG, posted to the Document Library of New Zealand Major Events in its evaluation report of the event, indicates that the tournament generated 573 million New Zealand dollars in direct economic activity, demonstrating that local regulatory protections did not diminish corporate investment or consumer activity. International bodies comply. They adapted to domestic law and accepted.
Can you name a single country that has mandated exclusive local ownership of international federation event branding, the merchandising and marketing rights, and retain access to those events? Please, one country.
Whether or not a country has already agreed to the policy is not the test of whether that policy should exist. Countries routinely set conditions for hosting international events, and even if that is not specifically exclusive local ownership, it still reflects that this is not unprecedented for countries to regulate the domestic laws regarding international sporting events. Carrying on, international bodies comply. They adapted to domestic law and proceeded with the tournament because the commercial value of the host outweighed the cost of regulation. What this demonstrates is simple. International sporting events are not fragile. They are economically anchored. They do not host countries based on regulatory assets. They choose them based on value. When states impose conditions, global sporting bodies adjust rather than exit. We do not have to fear that international sporting bodies will avoid Jamaica. Madam Speaker, this debate is not about whether Jamaica can host international sporting events. It already does. It is about whether Jamaica should continue to host these events while excluding itself from their highest value commercial returns. We say that it should not. When Jamaica builds a stage, Jamaica should share in the value of the performance. Thank you.
And thank you, Decarteret College. We will now move on to Charlemont High, first speaker.
Good morning, may I begin?
Yes, please go ahead.
Madam Speaker, honorable judges, worthy opponents, good afternoon. Today, this debate is not about whether Jamaica should benefit from hosting international sporting events. We on the opposition completely agree that Jamaica should benefit more. The real question before this House is how Jamaica should achieve that. Proposition believes the answer is to give exclusive local ownership over all commercial branding, merchandising, and marketing rights. We respectfully disagree. We believe that this solution is extreme, unnecessary, and ultimately hurts the very country it claims to help. Before proceeding, let us define a few important terms. Mandate means to require by law. Exclusive means only one party can own or control something. Local ownership means those rights belong only to Jamaican individuals or organizations. Commercial branding, merchandising, and marketing rights simply refer to the right to use, promote, and profit from an event's name, logo, products, and advertising. Hosting an international sporting event creates opportunities for Jamaica. It creates opportunities for tourism. It creates opportunities for hotels, restaurants, transportation, local vendors, and Jamaican businesses. But simply because the event happens in Jamaica does not automatically mean Jamaica should exclusively own every commercial right connected to that event. As the opposition leader, I will demonstrate why unilaterally claims these rights means no more than hosting. Our deputy leader will explain why gaining commercial rights will not result in economic value added. Finally, our third member will show that Jamaica can capture more long-term value through investing in developing sports. For these reasons, we proudly oppose the motion. Now, let me reaffirm our main point. Hosting creates opportunity. It does not create ownership. That is the principle our team will defend throughout this debate. We believe the proposition is trying to solve the main concern. The problem is whether Jamaica captures enough economic value of hosting international sporting events. The proposition's ideology and guiding principle is about value retention. They assume that because the event takes place in Jamaica, Jamaica should own all of its commercial branding, merchandising, and marketing rights, for that is the best way to retain the value of hosting. If we misunderstand the problem, we are likely to choose the wrong solution. Jamaica invests significant resources into hosting international sporting events, providing venues, security, infrastructure, and public support. Yet, many of the highest value commercial rights remain within international sporting organizations. As a result, many Jamaicans feel that our country does not capture the full economic value created by these events. That concern is legitimate, and we do not dispute it. The ICC Cricket World Cup 2007 comes to mind as a strong example. Also, more recently, it was reported that the government declined to bid for the 2024 ICC T20 World Cup. It's clear that if hosting automatically produced sufficient economic returns, Jamaica would have never declined to bid host the 2024 T20 World Cup. Where we differ from the proposition is not on the goal, but on the method. The question before this House is not whether Jamaica deserves greater economic benefits. We agree that it does. The real question is whether mandating exclusive local ownership of commercial branding, merchandising, and marketing rights is the best way to achieve that goal. We say it is not. Can exclusive ownership actually leave Jamaica better off? As the opposition, we want to argue in good faith. Let's ignore the fact that it would be near impossible to legally own these rights given the major contractual and legal complexities gaining those rights. Let's say it can work legally and Jamaica mandates this, passes law and policy. This still does not mean that Jamaica will benefit. That is simply because international sporting bodies can simply take their business elsewhere. International sporting bodies would never agree to those conditions. Why would they? When it is easier to go somewhere else for a better deal. International sporting I accept.
According to the International Olympic Committee, Olympic Marketing Fact File 2024, sponsorship and commercial partnerships are major parts of sporting events. Can you prove that sponsors would refuse to participate simply because Jamaican businesses control the marketing and merchandising rights?
I thank you for that question. It will be answered in the rebuttal. International sporting events are governed by organizations that own globally recognized brands and commercial rights. Those organizations decide the conditions under which their events are hosted. If a potential host rejects those conditions, the organizer does not lose its event. It simply awards it to another willing host. We are in the shadow of the World Cup 2026 right now. FIFA's 2026 World Cup process showed that host cities do not negotiate with equal power. FIFA's bidding regulations make it clear that host nations and host cities must accept FIFA's commercial rights framework as a condition of hosting. According to Reuters and the New York Times, the city of Chicago withdrew its bid to host the FIFA World Cup because it was unwilling to accept FIFA's financial guarantees and contractual requirements. Rather than changing its commercial conditions to accommodate Chicago, FIFA simply continued with other host cities. World Athletics also shows the same thing. The World Athletics hosting process pre-qualification form, August 2025, documents reserve regional marketing rights to World Athletics and its commercial partners and require local organizers to cooperate with them, not replace them. According to this form, the host institution and member federation must take all necessary steps, including through the host city and the public authorities, to protect the commercial rights granted to World Athletics commercial affiliates and to combat ambush marketing. Madam Speaker, if a market insists that every farmer sell his fruits only under its own conditions, the farmer will simply choose another market to sell his fruits. Likewise, if Jamaica insists on exclusive ownership of commercial rights, international sporting bodies can simply choose another host. For these reasons, we proudly oppose the motion. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Is that Alicia Log? Was that Alicia Log, Coach Bennett?
Grant.
Grant, okay. And all right, so our judges, you have the names, please ensure you have the names. All right, we'll move over to our second speaker from Decarteret College. Please go ahead, Decarteret College.
May I begin? Madam Speaker, honorable judges, members of the opposition, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Our Prime Minister has already established that this policy is constitutional, practical, and economically feasible. He has demonstrated that international sporting organizations can still host events in Jamaica, that foreign investment is not excluded, and that ownership of commercial rights is entirely separate from ownership of the sporting event itself. My role today is to answer a more important question. Why does Jamaica need this policy? Madam Speaker, we the government believe that if Jamaica creates the value, Jamaica should own the value. This debate is not simply about t-shirts, logos, or advertisements. It is about whether Jamaica continues exporting wealth created by its sporting excellence or finally begins to retain it. My first point is that ownership builds industries, not just profits. The opposition would have you believe that commercial rights are a small part of sporting events. They are mistaken. Commercial branding, merchandising, and marketing are the foundation of what economists call the sports value chain. They create opportunities for advertising agencies, software developers, graphic designers, manufacturers, photographers, printers, lawyers, digital marketers, and logistics companies. These are not temporary jobs that disappear after the event. These are professional industries capable of exporting Jamaican expertise throughout the Caribbean and beyond. According to Vision 2030 Jamaica, one of our country's central development goals is to create a prosperous economy driven by entrepreneurship, innovation, and globally competitive industries. This motion directly advances that national objective by ensuring that Jamaican businesses gain first access to these high-value commercial opportunities. Without ownership, Jamaican businesses remain subcontractors. With ownership, they become market leaders. Madam Speaker, a nation that creates value but cannot capture value always work harder than it earns. Secondly, intellectual property has become one of the world's most valuable economic resources. The World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, explains that trademarks, merchandising, licensing, and branding are not accepted at this time, are among the principal sources of revenue in modern sport. In today's economy, wealth is no longer determined by factories or natural resources. It is increasingly determined by ownership of ideas, brands, and intellectual property. Think about it. The Olympic rings, the FIFA World Cup logo, and the Wimbledon brand. These symbols generate millions because somebody owns them. Jamaica already possesses one of the strongest sporting brands in the world. Our athletes have transformed Jamaica into a global symbol of excellence. Yet, when international events are hosted here, too much of the commercial value attached to that brand is controlled elsewhere. Madam Speaker, this motion ensures that Jamaica stops renting out its identity and starts to invest in it. A stadium may eventually need repairs, but income generated by the ownership of commercial rights can rebuild that stadium. A strong brand can generate income for generations. Thirdly, exclusive local ownership strengthens brand Jamaica and protects our economic sovereignty. Every international sporting event is watched by millions of people worldwide. The organizations that control the branding and marketing rights decide which businesses receive visibility, which products are promoted, and how the host country is presented to the world. That is what matters. The Ministry of Tourism has consistently recognized Brand Jamaica as one of the greatest economic assets, using sport, culture, and entertainment to attract visitors and investment. Government initiatives linking sport and tourism are based on the understanding that our international reputation is commercially valuable. Finally, this motion is about nation building. Our national pledge calls on every Jamaican to play our part in advancing the welfare of the whole human race. Building our nation means more than celebrating our sporting heroes after they win medals. It means ensuring that the wealth they help create strengthens Jamaican businesses, develops Jamaican expertise, and creates opportunities for future generations. Madam Speaker, this debate asks whether Jamaica should simply host international sporting events or whether Jamaica should also own the commercial value that they generate. Our answer is clear. Ownership creates innovation, ownership creates industries, and ownership creates opportunities. For these reasons, Madam Speaker, I proudly affirm this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Decarteret College. And for those who may just be joining us, the motion reads, this House believes that Jamaica should mandate exclusive local ownership of all commercial branding, merchandising, and marketing rights for international sporting events hosted on the island. We'll now move over to Charlemont. Hi.
May I begin?
Yes, go ahead.
Madam Speaker, honorable judges, worthy opponents, good afternoon. Madam Speaker, this is about economics. And as an economics student, allow me to explain a few simple economic principles that will demonstrate our positions. But before I go into that, I need to address side proposition. Side proposition, you need to understand what the motion is saying. The word exclusive does not mean you can negotiate with any federation at all, right? You, in that sense, because of your position, you do not have the position to say that we're going to implement a negotiating way for FIFA, the ICC, or World Athletics, because there is already a guideline that says you cannot negotiate, because if you do go against their policy, they will instead want to go to a different place, which will give them the freedom to host those events in those countries. And in Jamaica itself, now I shall go into my substantives. The position of Jamaica is negotiating from a position of strength. Economics tells us we are negotiating from a position of competition. One of the first things we learn in economics is that price and bargaining power depend on scarcity and alternatives or substitutes. If there is one seller and many buyers, the seller has the power. If there is only one buyer and many sellers, the buyer has the power. In other words, the side with the better alternatives usually has the stronger bargaining position. That is exactly the situation before this house. International sporting organizations such as FIFA, World Athletics, and the ICC have dozens of countries willing to host their events. Jamaica, on the other hand, has far fewer opportunities to host events of that scale. Therefore, this is a seller's decline. The organizers are the sellers. Host countries are the buyers competing for the opportunity to host. In a seller's market, buyers do not dictate the terms of sale. They decide whether to accept the terms or just walk away. No, Madam Speaker, for the sake of argument, and in trying to understand our learned members from across the island, for argument's sake, let's say we can get past this hurdle, and let's imagine there is a smaller international federation, right? It agrees to Jamaica's condition, and the event is hosted here. Does exclusive ownership now make Jamaica better off? Madam Speaker, proposition has spent this debate talking about ownership. We'll spend this debate talking about value. Those are not the same thing. Ownership answers this question. Who has the rights? Economics asks the more important question. Are those rights actually valuable? Simply transferring ownership does not increase the value of the asset. It merely changes the name on the title. The government treats ownership as if it creates value, when in reality, ownership only has value if there is an underlying demand, commercial success, and a market willing to pay for those rents. The World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, explains that intellectual property, including trademarks and merchandising rights, derives its value from consumer recognition, market demand, licensing, and commercial exploitation, not simply from legal ownership. According to a 2025 Global Sports report published by Nielsen Sports, which was a survey declined that examined global sports sponsorship, fan engagement, and the commercial value of major sporting properties. Commercial sponsorship is concentrated in a small number of global sporting events. Therefore, it means that the organizations most likely to accept Jamaica's proposal are also the organizations with the least valuable commercial rights. The value of commercial rights, Madam Speaker, depends on the size and the popularity of the event, not simply on owning the rights. Madam Speaker, I'm in my last minute. One of the most fundamental principles in economics is David Ricardo's theory of comparative advantage. Now, Ricardo would have argued that countries create the greatest wealth when they specialize in activities where their opportunity cost is lowest and train or partner with others in the rest. According to this debate, Madam Speaker, Jamaica's comparative advantage is not in trying to become a global licensing agency or an international merchandising company. Our comparative advantage, Madam Speaker, lies in producing world-class athletes, developing sporting talent, hosting exceptional competitions, and creating an environment that attracts, Madam Speaker, international events. So rather than leveraging our limited resources into managing global commercial rights, Jamaica should instead, Jamaica will generate far greater long-term returns by investing in athlete development, modern sporting facilities, coaching programs, and world-class infrastructure. And with that being said, side opposition momentarily pauses. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. White. We will now move over to Decarteret College.
Madam Speaker, honorable judges and members of the opposition, a pleasant good day. To start off, your second speaker mentioned local companies don't have enough experience. But according to the World Bank report, Enhancing Jamaica's Business Environment, published on February 16, 2021, strengthening local businesses is important for economic growth. If Jamaican companies are never given major opportunities like commercial rights, how are they expected to gain the experience needed to compete internationally? As the third speaker for the government, I will reinforce the government's stance. This House believes that Jamaica should mandate exclusive local ownership of all commercial branding, merchandising, and marketing rights for international sporting events hosted on the island. Our first speaker established a simple but important principle. Jamaica should not bear the cost of hosting international sporting events while surrendering the commercial rights that generate the greatest financial value. We invest in stadiums, security, transportation, healthcare, and other essential services. Yet, the opposition expects Jamaica to carry these costs while foreign organizations take the largest share of the profits. Quite simply, they want Jamaica to take the risk while others enjoy the rewards. If Jamaican taxpayers help fund these events, then Jamaican businesses should benefit from the commercial opportunities they create. Now, our second speaker also showed that ownership creates industries, not just income. Income is temporary, but ownership builds lasting opportunities. When Jamaican businesses exclusively control branding, merchandising, and marketing rights, they develop valuable skills in advertising, manufacturing, event management, and digital marketing. Those skills stay in Jamaica long after the event ends. In addition, the profits are reinvested into local businesses, creating more jobs, supporting local suppliers, and strengthening our economy. Instead of foreign companies not accepted at this time, taking the rewards home, Jamaica builds industries that continue generating growth for years and years to come. Ownership doesn't just create wealth, it creates a stronger and more self-sufficient nation. The opposition may argue that Jamaican businesses do not have enough experience to handle the marketing and commercial demands of an international sports event. However, as I previously stated, experience is not gained by being excluded from opportunities, it is gained by being trusted with them. Madam Speaker, after everything presented in this debate, one thing is clear. Jamaica should not be left with only the responsibility of hosting these events while others walk away with the biggest reward. We have shown that local ownership keeps more money in Jamaica and creates opportunities for our businesses to grow. It is not just about making money from one event. It is about building skills, creating industries, and giving Jamaicans the chance to benefit from opportunities created right here at home. For these reasons, we proudly stand with the motion. Thank you.
A heated debate indeed. We will now move over to Charlemont High and take a minute to just thank our sponsors, the GHTA for this incredible partnership.
May I begin?
Yes, please go ahead.
Madam Speaker, my second speaker explained that even if Jamaica could convince an international sporting organization to accept these conditions, there is still a fundamental economic problem. I want to take that argument one step further. Economics teaches us that every decision has an opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is the value of the next best alternative that must be given up when we make a choice. In this case, the proposition asks Jamaica to pursue exclusive ownership of commercial branding, merchandising, and marketing rights every time we host an international sporting event. Even if an organizer agreed, that ownership would not come free. Jamaica would have to negotiate those rights and in many cases purchase or compensate for those rights as part of the hosting agreement. All of that requires using scarce public resources. The question therefore becomes, is this the best use of Jamaica's limited resources? We say no. Every dollar spent trying to acquire and manage commercial rights is a dollar that cannot be invested elsewhere. It is a dollar that cannot be a new running track. It cannot renovate a community football team field. It cannot train coaches. It cannot support local sporting federations. It cannot provide scholarships to young athletes. It cannot even improve sports medicine, sports science, or youth development programs. Those are the investments that produce long-term national benefits. Commercial rights are temporary. Infrastructures last for decades. A merchandising contract expires. A high-performance training center continues to produce Olympians for generations. A sponsorship agreement ends. A strong national federation continues developing athletes year after year. This is exactly what economics mean by opportunity cost. The proposition asks us to spend scarce resources choosing ownership. We would rather invest those same resources in creating value. According to the OECD, investment in sports infrastructure, participation programs, and human capital generates broader and more sustainable economic and social returns than focusing solely on commercial revenues from sporting events. Likewise, UNESCO's Kazan Action Plan encourages governments to prioritize investment in sport development, facilities, participation, and governance as a foundation for sustainable sporting success. Even Jamaica's own government demonstrated this principle. In 2023, after conducting a cost-benefit analysis, it decided not to spend nearly $500 million to host matches in the 2024 ICC event T20 World Cup. Instead, Sports Minister Olivia Grant announced that approximately $100 million Jamaican dollars would be invested in grassroots cricket development. Why, you may say? Because government concluded that investing directly in developing the sport would produce greater long-term value than spending significantly more on hosting a single international event. That is opportunity cost in practice. Madam Speaker, proposition wants Jamaica to spend its limited resources in mind through. We believe Jamaica should invest in planting trees. One creates a temporary asset, the other creates lasting prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Judges, are we keeping scores? Okay, our team will now prepare for the rebuttal section. When we return, we will be joined by the opposing team, which is Charlemont High. We would like to thank our sponsors, the Royalton Resorts, Beaches Negril, Moon Palace, Jamaica, for their prizes, first, second, and third place prizes. The debaters will win a trophy for the National Tourism Debate Competition and medals. Students, please prepare yourselves. Judges, are you ready? Students, just a reminder that the rebuttal is scored out of 100 marks. Full marks for the rebuttal section. So if you're weak during your arguments, this is your time to return with stronger arguments. Charlemont High, please prepare yourself as we will return with your rebuttal. And we will begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the semifinal round of the 2026 National Tourism Debate. We're joined by Decarteret College and Charlemont High. We're now in the rebuttal section, and we will invite Charlemont High to present their rebuttals. Please go ahead, Charlemont High.
Madam Speaker, through this debate, the proposition has spent a great deal of time explaining why Jamaica deserves more economic benefit from hosting international sporting events. And we agree. We most definitely agree. In fact, we conceded that from the very beginning, we have conceded from the very beginning that, yes, in fact, that's the case. But what they have failed to prove, Madam Speaker, however, is that the exclusive local ownership is the mechanism that will deliver those benefits. They have proven the objective, but they haven't proven the solution. Now, let me go into firstly one of their points. They would have petitioned for economic sovereignty. So they're saying that Jamaica deserves more economic benefits. Yes, we agree. Madam Speaker, we most definitely agree. Because our first speaker, Ms. Grant, would have conceded from the very beginning that Jamaica should capture greater value from hosting international sporting events. That has never been the dispute in the debate. But what her position has failed to prove is why exclusive local ownership is the only or best way to achieve that goal. Because they haven't even successfully identified. They have successfully identified a problem, but they have not justified their solution, Madam Speaker. And therefore, our first speaker's argument would have still stand that the objective is correct, but the mechanism that they want to put forward to the host is the wrong way to go, right? Because if I remember, as it pertains to the definitions, exclusive means that only one person reaps those benefits, right? Local ownership goes to Jamaica alone. FIFA does not get not even one piece, not even a crumb of it, right? They've always, again, we're not saying that economic sovereignty is wrong. We already say that we agree with that. However, you need to explain to us what happens when these federations, FIFA, ICC, World Athletics decide that they do not want to agree with what you're doing, right? They don't want to agree with it, and instead they're going to go to somebody who will actually give them those benefits. Another one, they would have said that they would have clued to exploitation that foreign individuals gain whilst Jamaica doesn't even get anything. So, Madam Speaker, if Jamaica is not capturing enough value, the answer is to negotiate better hosting agreements, increase local procurement, and strengthen revenue sharing agreements, not to demand ownership of every commercial right. Because we need to have an understanding of this now. The issue is not that foreign organizations participate. It is that Jamaica should negotiate a better share of the benefits. This reinforces our first speaker's argument, Ms. Grant, that the real problem is poor value capture and not foreign ownership itself. They would have also, again, they would have also alluded to the fact that it would have given Jamaica better bargaining power, right? Again, you're putting the argument that once you create the value, that Jamaica creates the value, they retain all the value. No, I have to say this. Opposition has to say this. That is total greed. That is total greed. Because you look at the federations who have their guidelines, and they would have said that there is no negotiating power when it comes on to say that you have local ownership over these rights, right? Once you say no, they will just move on to somebody else. Because we've been seeing it. Bargaining power is not created by a passing law, right? Bargaining power comes from having attractive alternatives, right? International sporting organizations have many countries willing to host their events, while Jamaica has far fewer opportunities to host events of that scale. As our second speaker, I would have demonstrated, the organizers hold the stronger negotiating position, right? We don't, they do, right? And making exclusive ownership and that makes exclusive ownership an unrealistic demand. In closing, Madam Speaker, through this debate, we have never opposed Jamaica benefits from international sporting events. We have supported the objective wholeheartedly. What we oppose is a policy that mistakes ownership for prosperity, because we have shown that hosting creates opportunity, not ownership. So what I want you guys to understand, if we truly want Jamaica to prosper, we must invest in the roots of our sporting success, not merely the fruits of someone else's pride. For those reasons, we beg the host to reject this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Decarteret College. Your rebuttal, please.
To begin, I would just like to state that organizations do not choose host countries based on domestic laws and regulations, as already stated by my first speakers, as already proven by my first speaker's third point. Your first speaker mentioned that sponsors will not support events under this policy, but the opposition has failed to name a country that has publicly refused to host in a country just because of local commercial ownership rules. But as my first speaker had mentioned, New Zealand had already tried this in the Rugby World Cup in 2011. Your third speaker spoke on the government spending money on this without returns. The mandate states that there must be exclusive local ownership of commercial lots. This ownership is what gives us the returns. At the end of the day, there is still a return. This is an investment. Your second speaker mentioned that we spoke on negotiations. We in fact did not. He is claiming things that we said that we did not. He also mentioned that local companies don't have enough experience. He also mentioned that local companies don't have enough experience. But if Jamaican companies are never given major opportunities, how will they gain experience? And yes, we did mention a solution. It is quite literally in the motion. Jamaica should mandate. That is the motion that we are debating on today. That is a solution. Your first speaker also failed to answer our points of information in which we asked because she said that sponsors will simply not come to Jamaica. You said, your second speaker said that we should understand the motion when you don't seem to understand it yourself. This motion speaks to ownership, not value. As I said, the solution is to mandate exclusive local ownership of all commercial branding, merchandising, and marketing for international sporting events hosted on this island. Thank you.
Thank you, Decarteret College. We will know Okay, we're getting ready to join for judges to rejoin. Just give us a minute. Thank you so very much. That was a difficult one for judges. I could see it, and I'm not able to say anything. But welcome back to the semifinals round of the National Tourism Debate Competition. We had Decarteret College and our current champion, Charlemont High. Now, we would have made the necessary apologies at the beginning of the competition where we had the forfeit of Cornell College. This will change how we move forward. And although there will be an announcement of the winner today, there could be some adjustments to who the winner will compete. Who knows? We may have a rematch, or we may have Monroe College and another team. So, without further ado, I'll invite Malik Kelly, our chief judge, and use the opportunity to thank our two other adjudicators, Sandra Roden and Unique Salesman. Go ahead, chief judge.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Decarteret College and Charlemont High School. What a very, very commendable match from both teams. We, as you could see from the time we took to debate and argue amongst ourselves to try and make sure that we have scored you as best as possible based on what you have had to say to us this afternoon. So I'll allow Mr. Sandra Roden to go first and then Miss Unique Salesman. And then I'll wrap up with just some brief comments about how the match went today. Over to you, Mr. Roden.
All right, thank you so much. I want to say congratulations to both teams, first of all, for getting this far. Of course, we heard some arguments from both teams. I want to deconstruct and reconstruct really quickly what we went through or what we heard as the arguments. Firstly, from the government side, we heard a very strong argument about ownership and what it would mean for Jamaica if Jamaica were to own the assets, the assets, mainly intellectual property, in terms of sporting in different fields. Now, that was the argument squarely from the government side. The opposition, though, they had an argument about value, saying, ownership without value, it wouldn't really mean that much. Now, the argument about value, it fell a bit flat for me in particular as a judge on the basis that there is already intrinsic value in the Jamaican sport, in makeup, the fabric of the Jamaican sport. So therefore, when you look at it, the argument about whether or not additional value would be created, there needed to be, I think, probably a more deliberate spin on that argument to show where probably ownership might not be the best thing. So I know there was a trying to get to that point, but we never really heard it to that extent, where we heard another argument to ownership that was strong enough to combat that ownership argument. As well as the government side, they presented the arguments and examples of Wimbledon and additional examples from around the world where ownership matters and the branding matters. And when we think about it, Jamaica has always been promoting brand Jamaica, particularly in tourism, when we go across the world promoting it, etc. So owning that brand and having the rights to it based on the arguments from government, we heard about the amount of money other places would have made from ownership of the rights of the brands. So what we expected from opposition, or more of from opposition, was getting so deeply into that point wherein they would say, listen, we're just going to attack this ownership argument and present an alternative that would be so great that the judges would not see the ownership argument as a strong enough argument. But instead, I heard about what needed to be proven, but the moot in and of itself gives the government that right to say this is an asset that exists, and we're just saying that ownership gives us more. And they said that. They plainly and flatly said that. What I will say, though, is that the opposition had a better rebuttal than the government. But the problem is, if you introduce arguments in rebuttals, the judges can't score you for new arguments in your rebuttals, but only what you presented prior to your rebuttal. So despite the fact that the rebuttal was so good, I think better than the government's rebuttal, we still felt the argument, the clutch argument that really mattered throughout the debate was really strong from government economically, and that's from an economic perspective. So I hear the economic perspective trying to come out of opposition, but I don't think that alternative, we didn't hear squarely what exactly that alternative is, and if alternatives are presented, they weren't strong enough to fight the point of ownership and the existing value that was created. Yeah, those are my comments, Malik.
Thank you, Mr. Roden. Ms. Salesman.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Charlemont, Decarteret College. Well played match. As you would have seen, it took us a while to come back to you. We wanted to make sure everything was fair, as head judge said. Just some general comments in your overall presentation. I think generally speaking, we all used up our tones, gestures, etc. Just piggybacking on what Judge Sandre mentioned about ensuring that the arguments that we are presented are supported, and as it relates to the opposition, positioning your arguments in a way that offer a solution. It didn't, I guess, land squarely enough, strongly enough with us. For my final comment, and I think I also didn't get a chance to mention this to the judges, but Sandra mentioned it, the connection to tourism for me. I felt like there was an opportunity to speak on that more from both sides, especially as it relates to sports tourism. That's trending right now in Jamaica. We've always had a conversation about protecting brand Jamaica, as Sandra would have mentioned, and now we have sports tourism being a whole new subcategory that we now need to talk about protecting. I loved the point that the government raised about intellectual property rights now being of greater value than anything else, and for me that struck. I do believe that we, as I said, we had the opportunity to build on that a lot more. And opposition on your end, you didn't dig away or chip away at that argument strongly enough. But again, just special mention to our speakers. I think our third speaker, it was on Charlemont. I think this is my first time seeing you on the team. You were a little nervous. And you had great points, but just how you delivered them, we could see the nervousness. And so I felt like you didn't hit as well. And for a second speaker on Decarteret, you had excellent, excellent points. I would encourage you to watch your tone as per usual. Second speaker from Charlemont, great job as per usual for me. Those are my comments. Over to you, Head.
Thank you, Ms. Salesman. Thank you, Mr. Roden. As you are all aware, a debate doesn't end until the last point has been made to both teams, and you'd have heard consistently some of the general comments. I think overall, I dare say without fear of contradiction at this point, that these are two of the strongest teams we have had in this competition. And so I want to give commendations to both teams for the very good work that you have put into the competition and also into the motion today. I'll pick up where Judge Salesman left off by saying exactly the point I want to make about the fact that the relevance to tourism is very, very critical throughout the motion and throughout the contextualization of your debate. Additionally, colleagues, students, it's important that you not just focus on your speeches, but the rebuttal, because as I believe it was Salesman who mentioned as well, that we found that the better rebuttal in this instance, came from Charlemont. Both teams, I would say, did very consistently in terms of how it is they try to position the motion. We could see very clearly the arguments coming out of Charlemont in trying to utilize the economics or the economics teaching throughout the three arguments, which is commendable, and we're commending you for that. But as Judge Roden said, there was something more that was required because the alternative as to be provided was not seen at that time. Now, with regards to Decarteret's proposition in as well, what was very good as well, I would say, about them is the way in which their baton change occurred. So each speaker was building on the foundation set by the speaker prior to them, while it's also using the opportunity to address some of the concerns that the speaker of the opposing side would have mentioned prior. Additionally, students, you will be aware and remember as well from the rules of British parliamentary style debating, both sides would have lost marks for your engagement with points of information. I think it is only from my record 2 speakers, the Decarteret first speaker, I remember, as well as, let me see, yes, the Decarteret first speaker who engaged with the points of information and continued seamlessly along. The crux of this style of debating and an argumentation as well is your power of advocacy and persuasion. So you should be able to, no matter the curveball thrown at you through a point of information, respond, neutralize, and continue. And so I give commendations to the first speaker from Decarteret in that way. The other speakers, for example, the second speaker from Charlemont valiantly, well, the first speaker, Madam Grant, valiantly acknowledged the point, but then stated, oh, it will be addressed in my rebuttal. A part of debating is the ability to think on your feet. And I think that is a consistent observation I have made throughout the competition, and I continue to share with you, students. Think on your feet. If you're so confident in your research and so confident in your information, it shouldn't matter what is propositioned to you from the other side. You should be able to respond, neutralize in the moment, and keep it moving. The others who would have been given points of information did not engage with them at all. And so that would have been fatal to both sides in the round. Overall, as you would have heard, we had quite a bit of robust debate ourselves as judges. There can be only one based on the scores. The scores are very close. And so we acknowledge and say at this time, very good work by both teams, very proud of what you have put forward. And so in all of that, we have at 910 points, Charlemont High School, and 931 points, Decarteret College, with the second speaker, Mr. Reed from Decarteret College, as the best speaker for this match. And we give extra commendations to Mr. White, the second speaker from Charlemont, as our runner-up best speaker. So congratulations, Decarteret, and well played, Charlemont. Over to you, Madam Edie.
I was holding my breath. I was holding my breath, Chief Judge. Such thorough and very, very good feedback from our judges this afternoon. I want to thank you all for making this a very, very good match. As Chief Judge would have said, listen, this has been the strongest match thus far. And I saw it when we saw the schedule and we saw it was going to be our reigning champions in Decarteret. We said, yes, this is going to be a strong match. We would have explained what would have happened this morning. So the judges will have to meet to decide, hey, what's going to happen moving forward? It's now the summer holidays. Some students have gone. Let us see what will happen. But I want to congratulate Decarteret College and Charlemont High for a well-played match. And we will definitely be in communication with all coaches. Students, I'm going to ask to just stick around, not at school today, but just keep in touch with your coaches so we know what is going to happen moving forward. Congratulations, Decarteret. I think this is the very first time in history you have made it to the finals. You've come close, but this is the first time in 15 years. So congratulations to you. Thank you, adjudicators. Thank you, sponsors. It has been a pleasure. We shall connect again at the finals for the National Tourism Debate 2026. Thank you.